In the year 532, the city of Constantinople was burning. The Roman Emperor Justinian sat in his palace, his bags packed, his ships ready to flee, as a bloodthirsty mob roared outside his gates. The greatest empire on earth was about to collapse because its ruler was a coward.
But then a woman stood up. She wasn't a noble by birth. She wasn't a princess from a foreign land. She was a former circus performer who had spent her youth in the gutters of the city. She looked at her husband and told him that if he wanted to run, he could, but she was staying. She told him that the imperial purple makes a fine burial shroud. That woman was Theodora, and she didn't just save the empire that day, she ruled it.
To understand how a woman from the very bottom of the social ladder became the most powerful person in the Mediterranean, we have to go back to the beginning, to the roar of the crowd and the smell of the stables. Theodora was born around the year 500, and her playground was the Hippodrome of Constantinople.
This wasn't just a sports arena, it was the pulsing heart of the Byzantine Empire. It was where politics, sports, and violence collided. Her father, Acacius, was the keeper of the Bears for the Greens, one of the two massive political and sporting factions that divided the city.
When Acacius died suddenly, he left behind a widow and 3 young daughters with no means of support. In the brutal world of the 6th century, a family without a patriarch was invisible. Theodora's mother, desperate for survival, brought her children into the arena, begging the Green faction to give her late husband's job to her new husband. They refused. Instead, the rival faction, the Blues, took them in. With no education and no inheritance, Theodora's only path to survival was the stage. In Byzantium, being an actress was not a profession of glamour, it was a profession of infamy. Actresses were legally classified as little more than prostitutes. They were the outcasts of society, forbidden from marrying men of high rank. Theodora became a mime, a performer who relied on physical comedy and provocative displays rather than spoken lines. She was famous for her beauty, her sharp wit, and a notorious act involving a goose that would become the scandal of the city. She lived in a world of late-night banquets and the company of the city's most powerful but least moral men. But Theodora was not content to be a footnote in the history of the Hippodrome. Around the age of 16, she left Constantinople to follow a mid-level official to North Africa. It was a disaster. He abandoned her in the desert, leaving her with nothing. This was the turning point.
Stranded and penniless, she began a long, slow journey back home, traveling through the great cities of the East. In Alexandria, she encountered a different kind of power. She met the Desert Fathers and the leaders of the Monophysite Church. For the first time, Theodora saw a world beyond the physical. She saw a world of intellect, faith, and strategy. When she finally returned to Constantinople, she was a changed woman. She abandoned the stage and took up a humble life, spinning wool in a small house near the palace. It was here that she caught the eye of Justinian. At the time, Justinian was the nephew of the Emperor Justin I and the power behind the throne. Justinian didn't just want Theodora as a mistress, he wanted her as his wife. This was a legal impossibility. Roman law strictly forbade senators and high-ranking officials from marrying actresses, even retired ones. But Justinian was not a man to be told no. He convinced his uncle to rewrite the law of the Roman Empire. By imperial decree, the barriers of class were torn down, and in 525, the peasant soldier's nephew married the bearkeeper's daughter. 2 years later, they were crowned as emperor and empress. From the moment they took the throne, it was clear that this was not a traditional marriage. They were a partnership of equals. In an era where women were expected to be silent shadows, Theodora's name appeared alongside Justinian's on official documents. She received foreign ambassadors, she corresponded with foreign kings, and she had her own imperial seal. The true test of her mettle came in 532, during what we now call the Nika Riots. It began as a dispute in the Hippodrome between the Blues and the Greens, but it quickly escalated into a full-blown revolution against Justinian's high taxes and legal reforms. Half of Constantinople was set on fire. The rebels even crowned a new emperor. Justinian's generals, including the legendary Belisarius, were paralyzed. The emperor and his court huddled in the palace, listening to the screams of the mob outside. Justinian decided to flee. The ships were loaded with gold.
But Theodora stood in the council chamber and delivered a speech that would change the course of history. She told the assembled men that every person born into this world must eventually die. But for those who had reigned, it was better to die in the purple than to live as a fugitive. She told Justinian that if he wanted to save his life, he could, but that she was staying.
Shamed by her courage, Justinian ordered his generals to take the palace guard and strike back. That afternoon, 30,000 rioters were cornered in the hippodrome and slaughtered. The riots ended, and the reign of Justinian and Theodora was secured in blood.
With the city in ruins, Theodora and Justinian didn't just rebuild, they reimagined the empire. Theodora was the architect of a new social order. She never forgot where she came from. She passed laws that were centuries ahead of her time. She banned forced prostitution and closed the brothels that had once imprisoned girls like her. She bought these girls freedom out of her own pocket. She changed the laws of divorce and property, giving women the right to own land and inherit wealth.
She turned the palace into a sanctuary for the persecuted, often hiding Monophysite leaders in her private quarters, while her husband, who officially persecuted them, looked the other way. This religious divide was a masterstroke of political theater.
Theodora's influence is visible even today in the stones of Istanbul. Together with Justinian, she oversaw the construction of the Hagia Sophia, the great church. When it was completed, Justinian supposedly cried out, "Solomon, I have outdone thee." But it was Theodora's iron will that made it possible.
However, her reign was not without its shadows. She was a master of the dark arts of Byzantine politics. She had a network of spies that spanned the empire. If someone threatened her position or her husband's authority, they disappeared.
In 548, at the age of 48, Theodora died, likely from cancer. Justinian was inconsolable. He never remarried, and for the remaining 17 years of his life, he rarely passed a law or made a decision without invoking her name.
He had her likeness captured in the stunning mosaics of the Basilica of San Vitale in Ravenna, where she still stands today, draped in jewels and the imperial purple, staring out at us with the same fierce, intelligent eyes that once commanded the Roman world.
Theodora's legacy is complex. She was a woman who was told by every law and tradition of her time that she was nothing, and who responded by becoming everything. The Roman Empire didn't just survive because of its legions, it survived because a former circus performer refused to give up her crown.
If you want to discover more hidden stories from history, hit the subscribe button now.